All right. So I just did this old school. I broke out my phone and I told Blair to go ahead and join this live with me. So hopefully she'll be on here in a second. And I'm not going to be able to be as fluid and show you the images and pictures and things that I wanted to show you, but that's all cool because here's what I'm going to do is once we do this this way, then I am going to post the things that I was telling you about later. So let's see if I can get Blair on here. All right. There we go. Boom. Adding her now. Ta-da! Yay!
Hey!
Yes!
Yay! Okay.
Oh man, that was
See,
not fun at all. Technical difficulties. You
I
gotta
can't.
love it when it doesn't work, right?
Always. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I can. My
Awesome.
screen is frozen for me, but I just want to make sure you guys can hear me and see me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Let me see what you look like online. So no, it looks like your video is messed up and it may be the internet.
Well,
Are you having
this is Walter State's top of the line internet at the college.
well, all right, because what it shows me like on Facebook when I'm looking, it has like you're like it just says audio only. It has like a little audio thing over you. It does not have it doesn't show your face. Everybody's saying you're frozen and you're
Oh,
blurry.
technology is
Yeah, it's
so
got to be
not
the
fun.
internet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the only other option I could do is go out to the car and connect to the cell service and see if that's better. Otherwise, I'm at Walter State.
That works. If
You want me to try that?
you did a forum. Yeah, do it. Like, oh, right now I
Okay.
can see you a little bit. Yeah, it's like as soon as you're
Oh,
moving
it's
around, just do it, girl. We are gonna rock this out. And while you do that, no worries. Like it's all good. This is the thing that I loved about the time that when I first met you. And so Blair and I, when we got connected, she asked me, so like right now, Blair, now we can see. I can see the laptop with me on it and turn the screen around.
I
Let me
did.
see if I can see you now. Yes, I can
Slow.
see you.
So slow.
Yep. Give it a second. I can see it. I can see it.
Hi,
Are y'all good
everybody.
now?
Uh, you're used to
Yay!
seeing me struggle with rural internet. This is actually in Morristown. This is the Walter State Community College's internet. And we did some tests. It
Yeah.
said it was going to be good, but here we are. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, no, it's definitely now it says live video interrupted on Facebook. I don't know what's happening right now. She she can try. My mom said she can see you now, so that's cool. Um it says blurred again. Okay, so you know what? Jackie can see you. We're just gonna rock with what we have. How about that? And then maybe we'll do another one of these if we continue to run into challenges because we've had like 20 minutes of challenges, right? Blair, can you hear me? No,
I'm still
she's
here. I
gone. Can
dropped
you
off.
guys still see me? And it's internet. It's internet issues. Yeah, you might want to go out and see if you can check the cell. You might want to try the cell because now it's giving me an exclamation point, Blair.
That was the cell service. The
Okay,
cell service
chick.
was worse.
All right, so let's just keep you where you are, even though we're not going to be able to see you. At least we'll rock with being able to hear you for now. And um, and then you know what I think? I think this just means we have to do it again. Uh, we lost her entirely. She's gone. Dang. Can you guys still see and hear me? Because I don't see and hear her at all. What is the deal? Yes, you can still see and hear me, Gina. I'm so sad because I've been so pumped. Jamie from Main Street Pizza said he was having the same problem. I was so pumped to have you guys meet her. And okay, Ian, whatever works, like you let me know and we will make this thing happen. Um, so let me tell you why I was excited for you guys to meet Blair. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to start letting you all talk to candidates yourself so that you all could hear from people and see what they are about and who they are and that sort of thing, right? And so when it comes to Blair, when I first met her, I think I told you all this. When I first met her, it was via Zoom, my Zoom account. And hey, Ashley, I see you're back. All right, so let's see if I can get. Hold on. Let's see. I'm trying to add Blair using Ian's phone. So let's see if this works. It just says adding, 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 adding. We're trying. It's not working. It's got to be the internet there. It's got to be the internet there. I know, me too, Christina. So that's why I'm hoping everybody hangs tight. Technical difficulties are no fun, but I promise you that if you wait to talk to Blair, it will be worth it. I've had the opportunity to talk with her on a couple of occasions. And the first reason that we connected was due to healthcare policy, right? Um, and I'm finished and tell you. So the first time that she and I connected, she reached out to talk to me about healthcare, you know, and several other candidates had done the same thing.
Am I here?
Chick, so let's see. You are here. You are here.
Okay.
So let's see. I think you're going to be here for everybody else too. But I was telling them, you know, that the first time that you and I ever talked, you had reached out and asked me about you know, healthcare and healthcare policy. A lot of people knew me from ballot health and protesting and all of that, and that was how you and I first connected. And then we found out that we're both veterans. And you know, your mom, and you've got several kids, 3 or 4 kids. How many babies do you have, Blair?
I have 4, ages 1.5, 2.5, 12.5 technically, and 13.5.
There you go. So 4 babies, and so then we started talking, and this is new territory for me, and the reason why is normally I talk about who not to vote for. I talk about the candidates who are, you know, not the best, and the people who don't really represent the interests of the people. And I've started to talk to some other candidates that I love their views and their policies. And I want to give people in this region an opportunity to get to know candidates that they normally wouldn't hear from, and give them an opportunity to learn a little bit about who you are. So I've already told them that you're a mom and that you're a wife and a veteran. Share with them why you decided to run for Congress.
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction, Dani, and thank you guys for holding out and waiting through the internet struggles. It's so serious. So like she said, I'm a mom, I'm a veteran, I am a small business owner. I have 2 kids in the public school system and 2 more that are coming up in this world. I'm also helping my parents out. My dad is a war veteran and they live on the same property as us. We're starting a little farm. We're doing all these things. But when I look around and when I'm at the school and when I'm meeting other parents, when I have my friends' kids come and sleep over, I am met daily with tragic stories. Not even just this sucks, but this is tragic. Poverty is crippling our communities out here. People can't get a great education. They don't have good job prospects. They are often living without running water and electricity. There's so many single parent households all across. Not even this isn't one spot that's having a problem. This is an abundance of people without health care. They say, well, I guess I'm gonna die. I can't afford to go to the doctor. I think I broke a rib, but I'm not gonna go get it checked out, even though it hurts to breathe and I can't move. This is the stories I hear every day, and I decided we cannot wait for someone else to be the hero and come and save the day and make these changes for us. We need real people who understand these issues to run. And I served my country in one way, and this is just another way I can do that.
Awesome. So the first time that I met Blair, she joined my Zoom, and I was here, and it was during the sheltering in place when everything
Mhm.
first shut down. So I had Dominic and Bella here. She's in her car, pulled over at the side of the on the road, and she's got her kids. And so I'm fixing a juice for Bella over here, and she's feeding the baby from the back seat in the back, and we are just making it work. And this is something that I love about her as a candidate, is that she's a person, and not just someone who is part of the good old boy network that we've seen around here for such a long time, doing the same things with the same friends, so that a small group of people benefit and not everyone else. So one of the things, I know we want to talk about healthcare, and you and I had a great conversation a week ago that got me really excited, because I took a look at the things that you had started to outline with regard to healthcare policy. And then this is what she said to me, you guys. She said, so Dani, here's the thing. I want to be able to introduce something that will actually pass, right? I want to be able
Mhm.
to, like, so here's the thing. If you start out way over here or way over here, it's hard to make any progress in DC, as you guys know.
Yeah.
So what she said to me was, I want to know, I want to be able to put something that will actually work on both sides. So how do we give everybody a little bit of something? So share with them a little bit about your healthcare initiatives and your thought process around that.
Yeah, this is a great opener because this is when I'm talking to people, it's not all the same problems. Some people have insurance, some people don't. Some people have private insurance, some people have public health insurance. I have had private insurance, I've had insurance tied to my job, I've been without insurance, I've been on Medicaid, I've experienced all of these, and they all present their own issues. And I want to make sure that everybody has quality, accessible healthcare, not just one group, not just poor people, not just rich people, but everybody. So what I was trying to think of is what can we do? Obviously, it would be fantastic if I could just wave a magic wand, healthcare for everybody. You're gonna have the best healthcare ever. We're just gonna say it's gonna happen, and that's what we're gonna do. It doesn't work that way. We can't just legislate away the powers that be right now. We have to address this from all sides and all angles, make something that can actually pass and quickly because we have people suffering that should never even be in these positions. So we started talking about how can we achieve that, right? We obviously need to expand Medicaid. This is a huge thing. I heard people in here tonight, I'm at the forum in Morristown, who said, yeah, people don't want that. And there's funding available, but Tennessee chose not to accept it. So here we are. We have an option to expand Medicaid and cover people who don't have health care, but you have people up here who have money and have private health care saying, you don't want that. You don't want health care like that. No, you don't want that health care. You don't want that money because it doesn't work for them. So I've come up with a really big plan to immediately take that offer and expand Medicaid here in Tennessee. We need to cover everybody. Nobody should be here in America without coverage. Then we need to work on the problems that are the root causes of a lot of this with our hospitals closing. We can't let that keep happening, obviously, and that's how I met Dani Cook. And I love Dani Cook. She's done so much work, you guys. One of the big problems that I've learned is about the needs, right? A certificate of needs. They have to say, fill out this form saying, we need a hospital here. And right now they just say, no, you don't. So that is one of the biggest problems we're facing, why we have ballot as a monopoly. And let's be real, that's what it is. We don't have choices. And without choices, we lose our bargaining power to say, I'm not going to come to your hospital because your care is not good. Because where else are you going to go? You're not going to go anywhere else because they own it all. So there's a many multifaceted problem here. It's not just giving people health insurance, it's making sure you can actually afford to go to the doctor, that you have the transportation to get there, the ambulances can actually save your life if they have to pick you up, actually reopening hospitals so you don't have to drive an hour or two just to get to see a doctor. This is a wide variety of problems, and I'll just pause there. I'll let you say some things, Dani. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So that is what we talked about, right? And so when we talked about a certificate of need, so a certificate of need, so a lot of people have said, well, Dani, why don't you just work on bringing other hospital systems and other healthcare systems to the region? And people who say that don't understand that the state of Tennessee has a piece of legislation called a certificate of need, which means if you want to come in here and open a hospital, then you have to submit paperwork to the Department of Health, and they get to say whether or not there's a need for you to have a hospital, right? So for those of you guys who don't get it, the reason we had 2 neonatal intensive care units here is because both Mountain States Health Alliance and Wellmont Health System completed certificates of needs for those and our level 1 trauma centers. And the Department of Health said, yes, you're right, we need that. So why we miraculously don't need it because we have a medical monopoly is news to me, right? So what she's talking about is working with our state legislators to get rid of that. And then on a federal level, being able to address those issues, to be able to say, no, competition is good, right? And having people be able to come in and give us a different alternative is important. The other thing that we talked about in terms of like expanding Medicaid, but also letting people who currently have private insurance keep it. Nobody wants to take your health insurance from you if you have it and it works. We also want to ensure, though, that, and this is just our collaborative, like she and I, we were like, okay, but wait a minute. If people have government insurance, how do we make sure it doesn't suck? Like, how do we make sure that the doctors don't treat people with government insurance badly? Because y'all do know that happens, right? So we start thinking of these alternatives. And this is what I love about her is we're having real conversations. We're not acting like doctors' offices won't treat you shitty if you have government insurance because they don't get reimbursed enough. We know that those are possibilities. So there's these conversations about, well, how do you make these things happen? So that's the one thing. For those of you all who don't know, Tennessee is number 1 in rural hospitals closing. So when Blair says we need to stop our hospitals from closing and we need to reopen some, that's exactly what needs to happen. We had a hospital here in, I believe it's Jamestown, that's been closed for almost a year, that got like $1 million worth of COVID money. And they've been closed. That tells you that
and they're not even there.
They're not even there, right? And yet we have other funds that aren't being utilized for
it's a huge problem.
Yeah, it's, I mean,
and think about that. Think about that too. She just said they got all this money.
Yeah. So like, if you look at, hold on, and I think it was Jamestown Hospital, COVID money. I'm Googling while I'm on here with you. People, they're used to me doing this. Yeah, they got 120, not $1 million. I lied. It was $121,000. But let me just tell you, I don't know about y'all, but I know of a few people around here that could use $121,000 in healthcare money. Ballot Health sued 6,700 patients in their first year as a medical monopoly. We're number one in medical bankruptcies.
Mm-hmm.
And they sued that many people. So I love the fact that she asked me, what are some things that, how can I help people? That was her question. How can I help people with regard to healthcare? So I think that that's fantastic. The other thing that you just talked about is internet. And we experienced it tonight, but I noticed on your page, you also talk about broadband access and internet because you live on a little farm, like you were saying, in Hawkins County. Tell me about how, because people go, well, why does she care about internet? Tell them why internet is an important thing to all of the policies that you're talking about.
Yeah, internet, a lot of us think, like you're going to watch Netflix or play video games, but that's really not what this is about. This is all of the kids who their school got cut and they had no internet access. They can't get on and continue learning. This is all the college kids who couldn't continue learning. This is people who said, oh, well, I'll just work from home. They can't work from home. Their job isn't something they can do from home. And then if they was, guess what? They don't have internet access to get on. I live out in the Clinch Mountain side of Hawkins County. I had a satellite internet at Viasat, and I also had an antenna satellite setup that is very expensive. I cannot hold live streams. I drop off of Zoom calls. I can't stream Netflix, but for a week out of the month. But what's really important, right? So you've got a lack of jobs that people can get staying home, especially for rural communities. How great would it be if they could have more at-home jobs? They don't have to drive 30 minutes or 2 hours like my husband does to work. Then you have to talk about telemedicine. Ethan just dropped that one in the chats. This is technology. This is the 21st century. You can get online and video chat with a doctor and actually talk about your symptoms and not have to risk being exposed to whatever germs or sickness is going on in the hospital. That's extremely valuable, especially for our elder community who maybe doesn't have the greatest transportation or an hour ride to the doctor, etc. But this also involves our emergency services. There's so many dead zones out here and across the Tennessee mountainside where they can't get the radio signals to go through. They haven't invested to actually make those calls. So maybe they get a hold of somebody to come out to you. Once they're out there, they can't call for backup. They can't connect with their own people. What if it's dark out? People can't even find our house. It's down long dirt roads in the middle of nowhere with no GPS. And this is a reality for so many people. So it's not just about watching Netflix. It's about education and jobs and actual healthcare.
So one of the things that I read on your site that I did not know about talking to you is healthcare is important to you too, because you're a cancer survivor. So
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that and what it's like to know all of those things. Obviously, immuno issues, healthcare. How does that play a role?
Well, I know for me, I was in the military actually, and I was about to go on a deployment, and I did a flight physical. And I had actually seen Planned Parenthood on my own accord, and I went in for a PAP where I was comfortable, and they were the ones who found and treated my cervical cancer. So this is something I like to share because so many people put Planned Parenthood in such a narrow little window when they do so much for women's services. So I want to applaud them for finding it when my past doctor did not, and they helped me with my treatment. So this is something we struggle with out here too. Many women can't even get to a doctor, and it's not even affordable. Even recently, I paid $100 to walk in a door just to ask for birth control. I was not touched by a doctor. It was $100 to pay for a signature to get a prescription, and then it's another $12 to $100 minimum to get your birth control. Women out here need birth control. This is a huge problem.
Yeah. So you and I both, so I didn't know, I just saw cancer survivor. So I had cervical cancer as well. Mine was diagnosed when the first time when I was stationed in Alaska. And at the time I was on this little bitty base and I had to, so get this. So this, when you talk about like military services for women, it's so lacking in so many ways. So like the post that I was stationed on, we did not have a full hospital. So, and at the time I was having recurring cysts. I had like 7 on each ovary. And so they were monitoring them every month. So we would have to get in a van. They would have to have the supply sergeant drive me 99 miles away to Fairbanks because we didn't have an OBGYN on the post where I was stationed, and no one to be able to adequately check on me and those types of things. So we've had these conversations about what was or wasn't caught, but I didn't know that we had the same type of cancer. I've now had it. I ended up having to have a hysterectomy, but I ended up having recurring dysplasia and that sort of thing. So, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Lauren says that Bill didn't fix that. No, he didn't fix that. So some of the things that let's talk about, because here's what I look at. Because a lot of people in this region just look at, oh, I'm either going to vote Republican or Democratic. And one of the things that I keep telling people is look at the candidate, not the party that they belong to. When I look at the Republican candidates that are running, I see Rusty Crowe, who we know is a contracted vendor for Ballot Health and has been since before they were Ballot. He's worked for Mountain States Health Alliance, which is now Ballot Health since 2009, making hand over fist. And that's who introduced the legislation to create the medical monopoly that we have, and then introduced the legislation to hide what they do. So for me, that's a no-go, right? I see him as somebody who's going to co-sign the Good Old Boy Network. I see the same thing from John Clark, who was the mayor of Kingsport. I see the same thing from Timothy Hill. When you look at Matthew Hill, Timothy Hill, Micah Van Hoss, the Hill, those are the three Hill brothers. I don't care what their last names are. You see the same thing in the state legislature. So what I think is that we have to have someone who is willing to be different than the status quo. So when you start to think about what are the main differences between you and those candidates, what would you say they are?
This is so important to me. I hate labels, and it's once you slap a label on somebody, you're sticking them in this tiny little box, and people don't want to hear anything else because they're making assumptions, and we all know what happens when you make assumptions. I am not here to toe a party line or play into these politics like this. I am here to help people. That is the only thing that our representatives should be doing in the first place. I have to pause for 1 second. I see a comment asking about prescription to lower the cost. This is all about the pharmaceutical industry. And I can't just get up here and say I'm going to make them lower prices, but there's people all over the country. This is a nonpartisan issue saying that we need to take big pharma out of our government and give it back to the people. And we know that we can work on that legislation. And that stretches from your regular medication to the opioid epidemic. They have to be held accountable. So back to the labels and what makes me different. My life has been challenging. I understand what people are facing. I see it every single day in every single people that I talk to all the time. I get it. Like I said, I've been through all the different kinds of healthcare. I understand the problems that everybody's facing, and I want to fix it for everybody. And accountability is of the highest. That is absolutely what is missing right now. People can say, we're going to do this or that, and then not follow up on it. That is a huge problem. Even for the rural internet. Trump even signed the rural internet expansion bill. Where did that money go? Did it get sent out into the rural communities? No. It went into their pockets, and they put it where it was most affordable for them to do so instead of expanding it to the communities who really, truly need it. So this is all about accountability.
So let me ask you this, because I went to Washington, D.C. in June of 2019. And I met with Phil Rowe. I met with Mark Warner. I met with Mark Green. I met with, I did not care what party people belonged to. I wanted to talk about healthcare in Northeast Tennessee. And what frustrated me, from Marsha Blackburn to Alexander's office, is they said, well, that's a state issue, right? Oh, well, that's a state issue. So talk to me about, how do you think being on the federal level for the state of Tennessee will enable you to work with and I don't know that you can force, right? But in terms of working with, holding accountable the folks that are here on the state level, what are your ideas around that?
Well, as I see in the comments too, transparency is key. I've talked to so many doctors, lawyers, specialists that they can't even tell you the average cost of something. What does this procedure cost? Call and try to find out. I would dare you, urge you, encourage you, call and try to find out how much medical procedures cost, and call more than one hospital. You're not going to find an answer. And you're absolutely not going to find an easy answer. Doctors have a hard time finding an answer. So this does have to do with transparency and being open and honest to be able to hold to that accountability. We have to work together. We get a lot of stuff that passes in one house and then gets froze in the other, where they are just like, we're not going to pass this, and you guys did that, we're against this. This is unacceptable. We need to come to people who are going to be balanced and be able to pass what's good for people and not get hung up on these little particular issues. This isn't just working from one house to the other and working with our local representatives and actually talking to people to see what they still need. It's about working across the aisle and not trying to one up each other on shitty policy and actually do what people need.
Right, exactly. This is one of the things that that I really do like. When you meet people, like I've met a lot of people who are running, and I like, you're my people. And what I mean by that is you would be my people whether you were running for Congress or not, because you value humanity, you value people, and I believe that you have what it takes to be able to stand up for what's right and not get swept up by the crap. So I don't see your husband running ads saying, oh, I'm going to make sure that Washington doesn't corrupt Blair. No, I think you know how to keep yourself from being corrupted. Although we do have a congressional candidate whose wife says she's going to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't think that I want a man whose wife has to keep him in check.
Yeah.
I do believe that the future is female in a lot of ways, and that you have a lot of what it takes in knowing people. So you're in Hawkins County, and we've gotten a glimpse of why you're watching. So let me do this. Those of you guys who are watching, I would like for you to start. If you have questions for Blair, can you start to put them in the comments for me so that we can let her address you all as well? I've gotten to talk to her for a couple of hours on a couple of different occasions. But talk to me and ask the questions for Blair that you would like to see asked. Joyce said in yes, younger females. Go ahead.
I saw one question, and it was about special needs children. And I will tell you, my 12-year-old, he is diagnosed with autism, among many other categories. They've slapped all kinds of diagnoses on him, from ADHD to ADD to ODD, put it on the spectrum, Asperger's, autism, and he struggles, especially within a traditional school system. My other son excels in a traditional school system. I excelled in a traditional school system while my husband really struggled in a traditional school system. What we have going on right now across Tennessee is the highest depression and suicide rates of children that we have ever seen. The leading cause of death between 10 to 17-year-old is a suicide. That is disgusting. We need to sit here and think about, why is this happening? And it's not just one reason, they're all connected together. But a big part of it is our education system. We really need to focus on diversity and letting our children follow their passions. Where you're passionate, you're going to be successful. How many of you wake up and go to a job that you hate every single day just to get by? Did you do it for the rest of your life? Oh, well, I have to because I get health insurance for my family, or it puts food on the table. What if you could really do the job that you wanted to do? Something that you absolutely love. These jobs that they're saying you don't deserve to get paid well for, supposed to be starting off jobs. These are people living in these jobs forever, not making decent wages. And we have to talk about that, because teachers end up in the same position. They maybe love teaching and they're following their passion and they want to be successful, but they're not even getting the funding they need to get paid properly or to take care of their students properly. They're having to pull money out of their own pockets to help pay for stuff for kids in school. And then you have parents who are working 1 or 2 jobs, or single family households, who can't devote their time, energy, and love to their kids because they're too busy just paying the bills and putting food on the table. Everybody is way too stressed and unhappy. So when we're looking at what can we do for the education system, it starts with proper funding, but it follows into making sure they're actually happy and successful. And that means we have to change the system a little bit. Our education system's not even that old, and it makes sense to nurture kids and let them say, if you're interested in art, do art. I can't imagine life without art. That's what you love to do. Let's do that. You want to do music, you want to do wood shop, you want to be an auto mechanic, you want to learn trades. Let's focus on that. Let's let people and children explore instead of trying to put them all in the same box. And when it comes to special needs children, especially, we have to also talk about seclusion and restraint. This is a huge problem, and it disproportionately affects people of color. But even my son, he was in an exclusion classroom forever. And if you're not familiar with that term, it means your kid can't be in class with other kids. They don't go to the gym. They don't get to play. They sit in a room and they stay there. The children
You just froze on
facing
me.
these struggles. And we're also asking too much of our schools. We want them to be the parents. We want them to feed them. We want them to have the mental health professionals. We want them to do everything. And it's not the root cause of the problem. They're struggling too much. We need to make financial security, health, and freedom for everybody. Everybody.
Yeah.
Happier, healthier people.
You and I talked a little bit about mental health challenges, and we talked about, you know, how that plays a role in the healthcare policies that we currently have happening, and in the opioid crisis, because those things kind of go hand in hand. So let me add, because I wrote down, I saw all these questions coming through. So just briefly, speak to me about, you know, mental health initiatives, and what are your thoughts around kind of addressing the breakdown that we have with mental health care in this region?
Right now, we need to separate it from criminal activity. Mental health shouldn't be a police phone call. It shouldn't be treated like a police phone call or a crime. We need to make it accessible and destigmatize it. So many people could benefit from mental health profession, and that should be widely accepted. It shouldn't be something you have to hide in the closet about. And it could also be something you can do virtually if people had the technology, including the internet, to do that. There's one more thing I have to mention about that too, is because a lot of veterans have security clearances where they're unable to talk to a basic level professional. It supersedes patient doctor confidentiality. That's something we have to address too, to make sure our veterans are getting the proper care, because they are disproportionately a way higher percentage that have the mental health struggles that lead to bigger, deeper problems.
Yes. So one of the things that Dr. DeVoe, I see you on here. We did speak already to. That was the first thing she said, was we have to expand Medicaid. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the first things that she did say. And so, like I said, when I say I've talked to Blair about like all of these different things we have, people want to know what's your stance about cannabis legalization or medical marijuana. What's your take on that?
I'm 100% fully for legalizing marijuana. Not only can it help people who are struggling with depression or PTSD, anxiety, any of those issues, it also helps people who have medical problems that are actual physical, like sickening, or they can't eat, maybe they're terminally ill, whatever it may be. But there's so much more that it actually benefits people, just even outside of the medical side of that. And then it's extremely lucrative. It would be a ton of money for Tennessee to reinvest in its people. And there's one more thing. It's good for the environment, guys. Marijuana is actually a great crop. It's actually recommended to be like every 4-year rotational crop for whatever you're growing, because it's naturally pest resistant and it gets down things in your area, and it also rejuvenates the soil. So this is a win-win-win that should never have been illegal in the first place.
There you go. Perfect answer. So I want to talk real quickly, because we were talking about money that doesn't go to where it needs to go. Mm-hmm. So right now, the state of Tennessee has a $1 billion rainy day fund, according to our governor, and $732 million in temporary assistance for needy families money that came from the federal government, mm-hmm. that was not dispersed to the families that need it. So if you're elected to Congress and you hold that seat, what does that conversation look like for you? You know, being able to talk to the governor of Tennessee and say, hey, you have $732 million that, you know, needy families in the state of Tennessee, you know, aren't getting, that the federal mm-hmm. government gave to you. What's that conversation look like?
It's funny because I was at the forum tonight and I listened to some of the ones who felt like they could show up to this speak. And Rusty Crowe brought up the rainy day fund and he was really proud of it. Like we have this big rainy day fund and we've put even more money into it. And all I could think about, what more of a rainy day do we need than right now? How many people have to file for unemployment, lose their homes, not be able to put food on the table, struggle through 13 weeks of trying to get unemployment and still not get it? This is absolutely ridiculous. This is the rainy day fund time. If I was having to talk to people right now, it would be to remind them it's their moral duty to put people first and that they should be taking care of everybody out here who needs it right now, instead of pitting us against each other about reopening the state or whether this is real or not. If they had just chosen to give people money in the first place, they could have done what was right for them, to stay home, to keep their business afloat, to keep their families fed. Instead, they gave those trillions of dollars to the high corporations and to rap stars who have millions of dollars already instead of you. And guess what? They said we have plenty of jobs out here and you guys are doing just fine. Just fine. Yeah. Is that what are you guys doing just fine? You have plenty of money, your medical needs are being met, your schools are great, everything's funded? Not from what I hear, not from what I experienced.
Yeah. And what I want people to understand is that it's a $1 billion rainy day fund and $732 million of temporary assistance for needy family money. So that's almost $2 billion worth of money that the state of Tennessee is sitting on. Now, maybe Bill Lee doesn't care because I don't know, he put like $5 million of his own money into his campaign. And maybe Rusty doesn't care because he works for the medical monopoly that we have. And maybe John Clark doesn't care because he works in the medical industry as well. And maybe Diana Harshberger doesn't care because, I don't know, she's a damn pharmacist whose husband. Anyway,
can I hit on that real quick? Because when I file with the the FEC, that's the federal regulations, I take a look at my competition's money too. Diana invested $250,000 into her own campaign. If I had $250,000 to invest right now, I'd be investing it in people and building parks and actually doing things for the people out here, not using it to fund my campaign to get richer. And that is the reality of what's going on. And it's not just here, it's across the nation. I am not wealthy at all, and I'm out here doing fundraisers, buying people groceries, getting batteries for people who are on solar. This is the reality of it. If you want somebody who actually cares about you and is going to put that to work and reinvest in this community, then you need to look at these things.
Yeah. So when I went to looking, because one of the things that I start to pay attention to with candidates, it's something that I learned from Ballot Health, is I pay attention to what they don't say just as much as what they do say. And so when I started looking at Diana, one of the things that I noticed was that, you hear her talk about being a Sunday school teacher for 25 years, protecting your Second Amendment. She's a pharmacist. She doesn't want to put any more snakes in Washington who put special interest above the citizens of East Tennessee. And yet, her husband, who was also a pharmacist, had to plead guilty to 4 federal charges for substituting a mislabeled drug purchased from China. Now, her website says America First, y'all, but her husband was buying a drug from China and substituted it. It wasn't approved by the FDA, and it was treated. It was given to kidney dialysis patients. Now, she says she didn't know what he was doing. I can't say that she did. Blair had no idea that I was going to talk about this, but it pissed me off because when I saw it, he paid back almost $1 million in restitution for it. He pled guilty to substituting the drug that was not FDA and 1 count of healthcare fraud. I'm sorry. Her company and his company shared the same street address, and she became the registered agent for his business when he was sentenced to prison, and she just dissolved that company in 2018. So I'm sorry, when you say we're not sending any more snakes to Washington, sounds like, for me, you were married to one and still are. And so I can't, when people ask me why no Diana Harshberger, that's why. I'm not saying she did or didn't know. I'm saying no. And you got, like Blair said, $250 million. And what you want to do with that money is put it into your political campaign. Got it. Yeah. Right. Scott Sanders says, no way in hell she didn't know. My whole thing is, I know that if I'm married and my husband and I are running companies with the same business address, we're probably doing like all the financials together. We're probably ordering supplies together. I don't know. I'm just saying, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a damn duck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we keep going, so we covered that. So somebody asked, what's your position on student loans?
Yeah, so I have a unique position on student loans, given that I'm buried in student debt from a school that doesn't even exist anymore, that shut down while I was attending, and my credits won't transfer to anywhere else. I was also in the military, right? People are like, well, don't you have the post 9/11 GI Bill? Yeah, guess what? I do, and I still got stuck with this debt because they fired fraudulent paperwork. And then when it was ITT Tech, in case anybody's wondering, you can Google all about it. Then they decided to purge their records before they got to court. It's already been to court once, and the loans that were direct through ITT have completely been forgiven, but everybody else, they said it could be another 10 years before we get any answers. So in the meantime, those student loans are still ours to pay. And I know that I'm not alone. And I know people who have $150,000 of student nets, and guess what? They work at Waffle House. My dad has a master's degree in history. He was in the military for 30 some years, served most of his adult life in war zones. And guess what? He doesn't have a good job. We think that college is the answer to everything, but what we really see is a ton of people who maybe have a good degree and maybe they don't, but either way, they have tons of student debt that are just crippling them. They can't afford homes, they can't move out, they can't afford basic just utilities. I do think we should forgive some student loan debt. And there's a few different plans out there, and I would definitely have to convene and see what people think is the best plan. For me, I've seen debt forgiveness just be a huge advantage to people, but we have to consider all of the people who didn't go to school, who didn't go to college, who don't have that debt, who need help just as bad. And just saying we're going to offer a 2-year degree for free as a reward, some people can't even go to school. So when I look at debt forgiveness, yes, we need to do something. We need to take care of people, especially who have been swindled. We need to help people. One major thing that we can do going forward so it doesn't happen again is making sure that the interest rates aren't absurd. They're, again, just making straight profit off of people. And we can all agree that a better educated society is best. However, when they're charging these insane interest rate, yet banks get less than 1% of an interest rate, that shows you where the priorities are. So this is another thing where we need to address it from multiple sides, not just forgiving debt, but making sure that people don't run into the same problem again in the future.
What's your thought about our kids being forced to return back to school and the threat of removing funding if our schools don't open back up?
I think that's gross and disgusting to say we're going to strip your funds unless you do exactly what we want. Why can't the funds sit at the school or go to improving it or getting more supplies for the kids for when school's actually ready to open, or buying laptops for the kids that they can return to the school once it's safe so they actually have the technology they need in the meantime? We're not ready. This is not an opinion. You can look at the numbers. And when they talk about, this kills me, you guys. This is something I've cried over. When people in power get up here and say it's only X amount of percentage of the population, those are thousands of people's lives that you're chalking up to a statistic. And when you're talking children, what does that tell you? You think that they care about your children? No, they're saying thousands of them will die, and that's okay with us. This is not okay. But as parents, we have the power here to say no, but only to a certain point. How many parents need their kids to go back to school because they need to go back to work? Again, this goes back to the government choosing to give all of our money to corporations and not to you. We have solutions. We just have to force them to choose it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think that a lot of people always say, well, where's this money going to come from for healthcare? Or where's this money going to come from for, changing immigration? Where's the money going to come from for all of these things? And the reality is we have the money. It's just priorities in terms of where we're going to spend it. And what I hear you saying is it's time to spend it for the people. And it's time to spend it for the people who are out here, your everyday average citizen. I saw somebody who had a post on Twitter the other day talking about somebody working their first job making $70,000 or $80,000 a year, and I was like, dude, where the hell do you live? Because around here, there is no $70,000, $80,000 a year job for your first go around like that. Mm-hmm. No, like people around here are doing good to make, $15 an hour, and they're being paid just enough to not be able to qualify for help, yes, and too little to not need help. And it's like that space. One of the things that we have here is we have 65% of the employment here controlled by about 15 people. 15 people control 15% of 65% of the employment. So when you hear people talk about we need better paying jobs, I say we need to get people around here to pay people better for the jobs they do, and bring things up to par. So give me your thoughts around economic security for this region.
This is a really big question, and I'll dive into that. I see one question about meals in Hawkins County. So Hawkins County schools, at least over in Clinch Mountain, all get free lunch and food already. But what I see, the bigger question should be is why can't parents afford to feed their own children? Why are they so broke that they can't even pack a kid's lunch for school or afford to pay for a lunch at school? Which last time I checked, of the school lunch prices, it's less than a coffee would cost you going anywhere, including McDonald's. So let's talk about that. When we're talking about economic security and financial freedom, gives you the choices to walk away from a bad job in the first place, saying, I'm not going to work for this crappy wage and give my entire life to a company that doesn't care about me, where I can't get health care, and we struggle so hard. I do have a policy called the freedom dividend, and it would redirect funds back into the people who live here's hands instead of corporations. And that gets also these conglomerates, Google, Tesla, Amazon, who don't pay any taxes, while us, the hardworking Americans, pay thousands in taxes, gets them to actually pay taxes into the system. This is putting caps on a lot of these companies and making sure that our money comes back to us and doesn't just keep making the people in power richer. This is about, it's really about freedom and the pursuit of happiness. And that's not just a cliche statement. It's about people being happy. When I gotta go on real quick. When I think about what do I love about Tennessee so much, I think about taking my kids to swim in waterfalls and sitting there having the luxury to have the time to pick up stones and see which ones are good for skipping, and hiking through the mountains and having barbecues and riding four-wheelers and raising a family. You know how many people can't do that? Their houses are falling apart. Their floors are sinking. The water wells are tapped out. They're on terrible electricity. We've had people lose their lives recently, including a child, because they couldn't get proper electricity. It's just not affordable. So when I'm talking about financial security, I mean real financial security. I mean actually getting paid for the work you do. I mean actually valuing non-paid work too. And that means all the stay-at-home moms who are raising children, the stay-at-home fathers who are raising children, EMTs, volunteer firefighters. All of this is what community should be about, working together and making sure everybody is taken care of, and that all of your hard work you do your entire life comes back to you.
Yeah. So y'all kind of see why I wanted Blair to come on and talk to you. Because the people who follow me on my page, you know that I'm all about humanity first. And I think that people are what is important. And I think that you have tough conversations. You have to hold people accountable. It doesn't mean that you never ruffle anybody's feathers. It means that the reason you ruffle people's feathers is to take care of people, right? And that's what I hear and see in her. And that's why I wanted her to come and talk to you all. So I had one more question that somebody put up. They said, if you could pass one piece of legislation and know that it was going to get passed, that it would get through, what would it be?
Some of you may not like this answer, but this is actually a really easy question for me, and it would be the freedom dividend, and I'll tell you why. And if you haven't heard what that is, some people don't like names, but let's be real, everything that goes through legislation, it's called like HR 7352, and nobody knows what that means. So we have to name them. The freedom dividend is a form of universal basic income. It would be $1,000 a month to every adult in America, and especially here in Tennessee. And I'll tell you why I would pick that over anything else to start with. Whether you need to pay for braces, buy a car, pay your rent, get groceries, you would have the freedom to do that. Instead of someone saying, you know, here's your food stamps, but food stamps don't buy diapers. Here's your $1,000 that we really owe you for being a hardworking American, and it's your money anyway. Buy what you need, invest in yourself, start your own business, hire somebody else, give people raises, pay for your health care. You know, maybe I can't jump in and just give everybody health care, but I can at least give them financial freedom to get whatever they need for their family. Our individual issues are just that. They're individual, and people should have the freedom to address that.
Awesome. I love it. I'm good with it. Like, I think about how much that $1,200 that people got mattered. Like, I know people that it kept them from losing their homes and their apartments and things like that at that time. And the idea that people could have $1,000 a month, and you know, maybe that doesn't give everybody health care, but maybe that gives you health care, maybe that pays for somebody else's daycare, maybe that allows somebody to pay for this and be able to go back to school or start your own business. Like, when we invest, and I have this conversation, I haven't told you this, Blair, but I was talking to a friend of mine I work with, and she has employees, and we were talking about like paying people more, right? And she was like, yeah, but why am I responsible for their choices and this and that and what have you? And I said, well, listen, I said, you're thinking about it backwards. When the mom comes to your business and she doesn't have to worry about her electricity getting cut off, when the mom could come to work and she doesn't have to worry about, oh my God, my rent is late. When mom could come to work and she doesn't have to worry about, oh, I can't buy Johnny's school clothes, right? Then that is a happier, more productive employee. More productive is more profit, and more profit means your business does better. We have to start looking at the investment in people as a positive return for us. When we take care of each other, we all rise and elevate together. And so that's what I love about. I love it. Like, that's what I love about what you're saying.
Thank you. Really it's beautiful, and it's true. We need to invest in ourselves, invest in each other, invest in our communities, and stop of letting corporations have everything. They're taking everything. I want to give hope back to people to know that there is a future, that it's not over. Life may be hard, but it will get better, and we can do it.
Right. So Anna Dean said, where does the money come from to give everybody $1,000 a month? You want to touch on that just briefly?
Yeah, I'll touch on that. Everybody, I'm going to have a freedom dividend class because it is heavy. It is like a bookload of information to absorb. And I'll tell you, the first time I learned about it, I was like, no way. I said the same thing. How do you pay for that? That can't be possible. We don't have the money. Let me tell you, the money is there. All the money is there. It's actually quite easy to pay for it. And one of the ways we pay for it is, like I said earlier, is getting the corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. And this falls under data as a property right, which is something I advocate heavily for. Right now, what you're doing, every time you like, heart, mad face me, mad face people, mad face it at Dani, all of that is tracked. Every single thing, everywhere you go, even if you turn your location off on your phone, it's still tracked. And that's not a conspiracy theory. You can actually look, because they've been trying to track some COVID lately, and you can watch where people go everywhere, every teeny tiny stop they make, and how it all connects. So labeling data as a property right is one good way to get money in your pocket, is saying, look, we understand that this is the age of technology, but you're making billions. So data is worth more than oil today, right now. And it's all because of you and everything you do. So there's a 13 breakdown of how to pay for UBI, but it's actually quite simple. I'll add one more because I don't want it to bite me later. I do talk about a value added tax and why it goes so great with a basic income, the freedom dividend. The value added tax is a 10% increase, which seems like a lot. I'm like taxation is theft background, but Tennessee is already labeled for many, many years in a row as the most regressive tax state in America. So on the outside, we're like, hey, yeah, we've got lower taxes. When you add it all up, it's actually higher. So when we talk about a value added tax, this is for what we would consider luxury goods. This isn't going to be your diapers or your groceries. This is going to be things that the upper class is already buying and maybe you're not. So that helps pay for UBI because you have the people that are the wealthiest who are going to pay more into it. But that's also why they get to collect it. It's universal. It's good for everybody. And people who don't need it, they can give it away, they can give it to their kid, they can put it in a college fund, they can volunteer with it, do whatever they want with it. The thing about a value added tax too is a lot of people don't know is there's very few countries in the entire world that don't have one already, and it already comes across legislation and they're going to pass it at some point. So we need to be proactive about it and say, look, we'll take your value added tax, but it's going to come back to us and not to you, and not letting the government choose where the money's going to go.
Yeah. So, you were saying you might have to do a class on the freedom dividend, and if you record it, like on a Zoom or like from a webinar perspective, I am happy to post it on my platform so that people can see it and learn about it and be educated about it. And we could even have like a live Zoom, and let people join in and ask questions if you wanted to do it that way. So you let me know. And then we'll take care of that. Tamisha says, I'll be honest, her plan was to vote for Diana, but now she just ordered a sign for Blair. Love
Hey,
it.
yes.
This is the thing, folks. I really believe that this region and this state is ready for positive change for the people. For far too long, we have had a particular set of people and individuals who all look alike, think alike. They run in the same circles. They have the same friends. They're on every committee. They belong to every organization. They're part of all the county commissions, the board of mayor aldermen. That they're the ones doing it, and they continue to get rich while some of the best people I know struggle day to day. Yeah. And the thing about it is, I see the same people struggling. They're the people pitching in. They're the people pitching in for each other. It's the good people. It's the regular, everyday people who are doing the most for the people. And what I see about Blair is she is a regular, everyday person with the heart to do what's right for people and the grit to not let anybody push her over. So I appreciate you for coming on. Thanks for making sure that we made this happen despite the internet issues. Thank you to everybody who tuned in and stuck with us.
Yeah, thank you.
While we figured out the internet issues. This isn't quite how we wanted it to go down, but it went down, and maybe we'll do it again at another date and time, and and then we'll just we'll go from there. But I appreciate you all very much, and thank you, Blair. Anything you want to leave the people with before we go?
Yes, if you're a Republican watching this and you plan on voting for me, know that you have to ask for a Democratic ballot, and it would mean the world for me for you to show up for the primary and do that. I know that's asking a lot, but it's really important to show the powers that be that we want change and we will get change, that they have to start making choices for the betterment of the people. You can go to blairforcongress.com. All of my information's on there. You can talk to me directly. I'm happy to talk to everyone, and I will hold a UBI class very soon. I have several experts and economists on my team that are going to come on with me to give you guys the full effect, and I'm happy to do so. I love you all. I want to see everybody happy, healthy, and actually financially secure. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate you all very much. Y'all know how I end everything. Y'all be amazing, be light, be love. Peace.